name's Paul and I'm a musician. I've been playing in bands, learning guitar since I was about 11. As soon as I could string 3 or 4 of the chords together, I was playing in bands. And I just loved absolutely everything about it, except for when I didn't for nearly 5 years. So that all started in 2020. That thing that happened that we don't really talk about anymore kind of rhymes with Schmandemic. Well, like many people, I had a lot of time to kill, a lot of grand plans of making tons of records, tons of music. I had concept album ideas, I had everything, but it was all ideas. I started to get into my own head a little bit around then. I started making stuff a little bit, but I also started to question why I made stuff. It didn't flow as easy. It didn't come anywhere near as easy, and that made me really question it. And without an audience, without any kind of display of everything, I really started to question who I was doing it for. My questions kind of got a little bit deeper. I started really questioning, what is art in general? If I painted a picture in the dark and then no one ever saw it, is that art? Because that's kind of how it felt. It felt like while I was making this music, seemingly for lockdown, which was, no one knew how long it was going to last for, I just found it really difficult to know what it was for and who it was for, and was it for me? Was it for an audience? Do I only make music for an audience? Does there have to be an audience? It was a bit of a troubling time for me artistically, and I'll be honest, the over questioning and that cycle of negativity it completely ground me to a halt, and I just stopped creating altogether, really, music. I'd kind of thought myself out of love with music, which I knew was happening. It was almost like I was watching my creativity die as it was happening. But even as we started getting back into life, as we all came out of lockdown, these questions still kind of lingered on. I was still going to gigs, I was still enjoying music as an audience member, but there was never a time when I really felt like I was contributing and I knew why I was contributing. And if I did have something to say, what was it that I was trying to say? What was my message? What was I trying to... There's so much stuff in the world already. What was I trying to add to that kind of never-ending lump of content, if you know what I mean? So I decided to seek a little bit of help. I asked musicians and artists all around me in my kind of network, my friends and my family. I kind of asked them what is art to you? What's your thesis on what art is? And I got a lot of sort of echo chamber responses. So I would divulge where I was with art and creativity, and then it would almost be mirrored back. They would say, yeah, I feel exactly the same way, and this and this and this, and I would never really... I would feel validated, and that was nice, but I would never actually get out of the other side of the problem, which was that I couldn't create anymore. I'd thought myself into this spiral of negativity and non-creativeness. So I'd spoken to my friends and my family and everything. One day I was on a walk with my wife, and I brought it up to her. So I said to her on the walk, I said, what do you think art is? And without missing a beat, she just said, the process. And those 2 words just blew a huge hole in my mind. We talked at length about just showing up and, trying to create with no fear of failure, no fear of recognition, just nothing. Just it being a process and something that we do, and something that I can do. And it might strike you as a little bit odd that it took me sort of 4.5 years, 5 years of self-doubt and negativity when she was sat in the same room as me. It just was what it was, it wasn't obvious to me. And there's another thing in that when I started making music, when I was a kid, the scene I was a part of was quite competitive. It was quite, don't get me wrong, it was creative and it was great, and the competitive nature of the scene really drove everyone on to just become better and better and better. And I think there's so many incredible musicians in the world now because of that scene, but it was a bit toxic as well. And I think that's where the fear of failure and a almost need for an audience member to participate in my art came from. It wasn't, this whole problem didn't start in COVID. COVID was the thing that sort of lit the touch paper and really ignited this as a problem, whereas the actual root of the problem was at the start of my musical career in them scenes that were just a little bit too competitive and a little bit toxic. But as I say, within 2 words, my wife had kind of just healed me, and she didn't realise how therapeutic that was, and she just felt like a weight had lifted from me and my creativity. So, I started to create again. I started to write some songs with no real view of anything, and I was able to say yes to some opportunities, and here I am in 2025, the part owner of a studio again, which is just a blessing. And I'm in like 2 bands now, creating all the time, feeling more and more creative than ever. And I'm at a place now where I'm creating not for an audience, not even for me, but because it's the process of creating things. So my message to you today is find what your process is with social media and likes and engagement and the commodifying of art now. It's really, really tough to stay creative and be in that headspace. But my message to you today is, again, find what your process is and just turn up every day, and turn up just for the process. Have no expectation and just create. Thanks for watching till the end. If you can, hit the like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.